Freedom Ride. My bus is called. Outside the station, the noon air smells of exhaust and escape, the oily heaviness of leaving or being left, and I get in line behind the other passengers traveling from the valley to San Antonio. A solid, middle-aged woman with a bad dye job and perm grabs my bags and tosses them into the cargo hold beneath the bus. The driver takes my flimsy accordion of tickets, rips out the boarding pass, and lets me on. Moments later, as people are still getting seated, I hear my mother call out to the driver. She wants to make sure I haven't gotten on the wrong bus. "No, ma'am," he assures her. "This bus is going to San Antonio." "It's that I heard it was headed for Reynosa," she says. The last thing my mother wants is for me to wind up in Mexico, which, in her news-saturated imagination, is about as good as sending me across the river to be made into breakfast taquitos. Never mind that I'm in my 30s and have been living in the tough city of New York for more than a decade. This ride to San Antonio stirs up all her wild fears of bus jackings and, more than likely, the dirty old men who hang out in station bathrooms. I stand up, searching for my mother through the windows, hoping she won't decide to come into the bus for a weepy farewell. Other than her voice still ringing in my ears, there is no sign of her. I spot my father standing inside the station. A moment later, my mother joins him. They remain by the windows, looking out. The driver, whose name tag reads Jesus, stands at the front end of the aisle and counts the number of available seats. His forehead sweaty, he runs his fingers through his gray hair as if trying to untangle a problem. The baggage handler boards the bus. Her face is splattered with freckles and moles, and her jaw drops as she makes an announcement, first in Spanish and then English. "There is one person here who has a ticket for tomorrow. Please raise your hand." No one moves. "There are also 5 of you who were supposed to leave on the 9:15 and didn't. Please show your hands." Nothing. "Because of you, there are people who bought tickets for this bus and aren't able to get on because there are no more seats. Por favor, board those buses you have tickets for, otherwise we run into these kinds of problems." She comes down the aisle and stops next to a vaquero wearing diamond horseshoe rings on both hands. His straw hat and bag take up the seat next to him. She tells him to please remove his bag. When it looks like he's not listening, she grips his things, stuffs them into the overhead bin, and then turns to everyone and huffs that we should remove our belongings from the empty seats so that other people may sit. As she comes further down the aisle, she stops at a quiet old lady with a long gray braid down her back. She looks like someone who, up until now, has only traveled by huarache, or burro. The baggage handler calls to the driver, "Hey, this woman's got tortillas all over her seat." She must have bought them that morning at the tortilleria and was trying to air them out so that they wouldn't stick together. The driver tells the old lady to please pack up her tortillas so that another passenger may sit. A young mother and her little girl are forced to take the final 2 front seats across the aisle from each other. The passengers on either side of them refuse to move. The disabled vet is willing, despite the fact that he's wearing a combat boot on one foot and a cast on the other. But the woman in the other seat won't sit with him. So mother and child sit apart. Across from me, a middle-aged woman reaches under her cantaloupe-colored t-shirt and unsnaps her bra and then flips through the pages of a Reader's Digest with a cover story that reads, "The Hidden Dangers of Healthy Foods." Jesus shuts the door and goes back into the station. A guy in a Young Country 103.5 FM giveaway t-shirt comes down the aisle to get off for a smoke, but now he can't open the door. La comadre Cantaloupe says, "Ya te quedaste adentro." "Ahorita quiebra una ventana," he says, stomping back to his seat. Someone in the back starts signaling the driver, maybe it's a tortilla lady, who asks the man next to her, "What time are we going to arrive in San Antonio?" 4 o'clock, he says. "So when am I going to arrive in Dallas?" I say around 9 tonight. Tortilla lady sighs and calls out the name of a few saints to give her patience. She taps at the window so that we can get a move on and then turns back to the man. "Hacen mucha caña," she says. La comadre shows her Reader's Digest to the woman sitting next to her. "I'm reading it too, but in Spanish," the other woman says. "Me in English and Spanish," La comadre says. "Though at times I don't understand many words in Spanish." The other woman says she knows nothing in English. "Ay, they have such good stories," La comadre says. "And recipes. And jokes," the other adds. "I've had this one for a while because I just haven't made the time." She puts the magazine face down on her lap. "Did you watch television last night?" She mentions the name of a reality show. "It's getting good." The other woman says she doesn't watch much TV. "It's that I work nights," she says. She works at a bakery, packing pan dulce that gets shipped to the local schools, and as far away as Laredo. She also works at the old El Pato on Old Highway 83 in McAllen. La Comadre nods and says she likes the TV programs on Channel 12. She names a few shows that sound like telenovelas, but at times they irritate me because the stories are so mixed up. When Jesus gets back on the bus, settling behind the wheel, the two women quiet down. He slaps the horn and we pull out of the station. My mother has come out to the boarding area, waving and blowing kisses to everyone on the bus, directing her affection at each tinted window because she can't see where I'm sitting. La Comadre and the other woman agree. El que se quedó, se quedó. Once on the highway, they turn to the window and remark how pretty everything looks. Oye, sí, La Comadre says. We're in far, banking an overpass that heads north, and all around us in a soft haze, the valley seems to fall away, as if we are flying on an airplane. Both women say, Las matas, qué bonitas, referring to the palms and bougainvillea. The young mother in front tells the driver about her ordeal, how they told her to go to the Harlingen station when she was in Weslaco. From Harlingen, she rode to McAllen when they told her, sorry, the bus is full. She shakes her head and smooths out the wrinkles of a pink and green sarape folded over her lap. She smiles at her little girl in the next seat, bare brown legs swinging, Powerpuff Girl chanclas on her feet. She asks her mother, can you give me my orange juice? It's really orange soda. The girl takes a sip and hands it back. She wipes her mouth with the entire length of her brown arm from her downy shoulder to her skinny wrist and says she's full. The mother puts the soda away and then fixes her ponytail. She wears gold hoop earrings, a black sleeveless blouse, and sweatpants that match her New Balance sneakers. She looks all of 20 and alone. La Comadre's seatmate gets off in Edinburgh. A big guy, chewing gum, wearing tight black Wranglers, takes the other woman's place. On his lap, he has a slim hardback titled Attitude 101. Ready to get back on the road, Jesus hollers to Mr. Young Country, who has stepped off the bus for a quick smoke. Turn off the cigarro and let's go, he says. Vámonos. That's it, Young Country says, stalling. No more passengers. Jesus responds with impatient silence. Well, I was just waiting for the others. Jesus, still not saying anything, stares out the door until the guy comes inside. As he walks down the aisle, the stench of cigarettes trails him. Finding away the smoke, the young mother tells the vet about her life. I was studying for medical records, she says. I got certified and worked at a hospital, but I didn't like it. Didn't like the paperwork. She turns to her little girl and asks if she's hungry. You want some tacos? She nods at the same time to convince the little girl that yes, she wants one. Your grandma made you tacos. The girl says okay. The mother searches her bag and pulls out a greasy, foil-wrapped mess. The girl takes a single bite and hands it back. Don't want no more? The girl shakes her head. The mother rewraps the taco and then turns to the vet. Did you hear that if you eat meat, you get cancer? Can't eat this, can't eat that. The girl asks for a bag of Funyuns. The mother hands it to her. The girl puts the bag between her dusty knees and pulls out one Funyun ring after another. As we approach the border checkpoint in Falfurrias, the young mother makes the sign of the cross and kisses her thumb. She looks over and smiles at her little girl. Jesus slows down. The bus shudders and groans as we join the line of vehicles. La Comadre looks out the window and complains, This looks like Reynosa. What's going on here? She jokes with the guy next to her. If they take you off, I don't know you. I hear a woman behind me reassure another rider that if there are any questions, a driver's license should be fine. It's enough at the bridge, she says. The signs along the road instruct us to dim our headlights. These are federal agents, we are told. Further up, they announce that dogs are on duty. The biggest sign posts the year-to-date seizures. Drugs, 49,833 pounds. Undocumented aliens, 7,350. All my life, anytime I traveled outside of the valley, I endured this final moment. The agent stared you down behind his black-tinted aviator sunglasses, tapped your car door to test for the sound of drugs being smuggled in the panels, and asked where you're coming from and where you're going and whether you're an American citizen. My mother always warned us to answer with a smile. I always offered a resentful yes. As the years go by, I've seen my beloved South Texas homeland become a militarized zone of border agents who not only stop you at the river and as far as 50 miles north, but also cruise our neighborhoods in their window-tinted vehicles. So I don't know why I think they'll just pass us through this afternoon. They don't. Jesus steers the bus off to the right under a tree where another Greyhound has been parked and emptied. For a moment, I panic that those passengers have all been lined up and shot. I get this terrible feeling in my gut. A murmur of fear ripples down the rows of seats. The little girl asks, "Mommy, what are we doing?" Stopping because they have to check the bus. Without making an announcement, Jesus gets off. The bus rocks as the luggage compartments are yanked open for the dogs to sniff out any contraband. 2 agents in their military greens appear at the head of the bus aisle. One stands with a panting German shepherd on a leash. The other agent comes down the rows, pointing at individual passengers and asking, "U.S. citizen?" When he turns to the little girl, the mother speaks up. "She's my daughter," she says, which doesn't really answer the question. The woman next to the girl says, "American." La comadre says, "Yes, sir, U.S. of A.," just as my mother would. All I say is yes. The young mother, struggling with a smile that is not a smile, eyes the dog and then looks up at the agent holding the leash. She pleads, "It's not going to bite me, right?" The agent says no. From the bottom of the stairs, Jesus calls, "All clear?" Back on the road, the young mother chews her gum so hard I expect the crack of a molar to sound off like a gunshot. She turns to the little girl and says, "That was fun, right?" "What?" the little girl says. Even at her young age, she's not convinced. She doesn't know what her mother means by "that was fun." "The dog," she says, snapping her gum and looking out to the road ahead. We continue north on Highway 281. Harsh sunlight glints off the chrome of speeding SUVs and southbound semi-trucks making deliveries to Walmart and H-E-B. "Go home a hero," reads the side of one truck. The bus rushes alongside pastures of high, dry grass and fenced wilderness of huizache and mesquite and sagebrush. We dip and buck as we push forward. Nearing San Antonio, the Hemisphere Tower visible in the distance, Jesus clicks on the intercom and wakes us with a grand announcement. "Damas y caballeros," he begins. "We have arrived."